Today on Not Sam Wrestling, it's Adam Cole, it's Bobby Fish, it's Kyle O'Reilly, it's Roderick Strong, the Undisputed Era together for a full-length sit-down interview. It's amazing. Plus, we're going to break down who exactly is the best wrestler in the world. We're going to talk about the top 5 Survivor Series tag teams of all time, Ronda Rousey versus Becky Lynch, and a whole lot more. This is Not Sam Wrestling.
This is Not Sam Wrestling.
Introducing your host from New York, here is Sam Roberts.
I'm so excited about today. I'm excited about today's show. I'm excited to bring you this interview. Welcome to Not Sam Wrestling. The Undisputed Era is sitting down with me today, and this is an interview that has been a long time in the making. We'll talk about it in a couple minutes, but first, welcome. We've also got a lot to do in the state of wrestling this week. You know, heading towards Survivor Series. Heavy heading towards Survivor Series. And of course, you know, we've got to wrap up Crown Jewel and everything. We'll address in the bridge segment after the interview. I'll talk about the stuff that was said about yours truly, the last professional broadcaster, Sam Roberts, on the Major Brothers Wrestling Figure podcast. They had some big claims to be made about me as far as wrestling figure collecting goes. So we'll talk about that. And once I do talk about that, if you're not in the wrestling figure world, you know, maybe hit that 30-second skip ahead because we're going to get geeky, folks. But that's what we do here on Not Sam Wrestling. That's the whole point anyway, isn't it? Geeky is good. Geeky, for lack of a better term, is good. Michael Douglas, Wall Street. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the show. I'm excited, as I said, about this one because this was a long time coming. This was something that we had to work to accomplish. So I can't remember which takeover it was, but it was probably earlier in the year. I don't know if it was all the way back at the Royal Rumble, but at one of the takeovers, I ended up in a conversation with young Roderick Strong, and we were talking about, you know, having him on the podcast. Because the truth is, Roderick Strong was supposed to do this podcast like 3 years ago when he was in Ring of Honor. And I was sick and couldn't do the interview. And I think I've only ever missed 2 interviews because I was sick. I think that's the only wrestling interview I've ever missed. And the other interview that I missed once because I was sick was with Mindy Kaling, just as the Mindy Project was like getting big. And, of course, they were like, Mindy will be back, and she was never back. So those were the 2 interviews that I really regret missing because I so seldom take any kind of sick day. And, you know, even when I'm on vacation, I'm still in hotel rooms doing this podcast. I mean, I did one from the maternity ward at the hospital a day after my kid was born. You know, I really don't like taking time off of this stuff because life is good. You know, I've managed to figure out, with your guys' help, how to create a life that is fun. I get to do this fun stuff, so why would I want to take time off of it? I want to take advantage of doing it while I still can. So those being the 2 interviews that I miss or didn't get to do, I kind of always regretted it. And but I was talking to Roderick Strong this year, you know, after he was on NXT and everything, and he was in the Undisputed Era. And between us, I said, you know, I would love to get the 4 of you guys together to do something. Because, you know, I've known, as I said, I was supposed to do the thing with Roderick Strong. I've had Adam Cole on the podcast multiple times. You know, I haven't had Kyle O'Reilly or Bobby Fish on before. I mean, I had, you know, other than what we did for the 10 minutes at the Performance Center a few weeks ago. But then that was just Kyle O'Reilly. That wasn't Bobby Fish. But obviously I knew those guys for a long time. You know, I've been tracking their careers. I've been to PWG shows. I have gone to many Ring of Honor shows. So, you know, I've kind of been familiar with them, and we've been familiar together for quite some time. So I've tried many times. We were talking at SummerSlam about trying to do something with the Undisputed Era. For a moment, I was trying to get them as the guests on the live SummerSlam show. By the way, the YouTube video of the 200th episode of Not Sam Wrestling that we did live from Caroline's with Dalton Castle, Pat McAfee, Corey Graves, and Bruce Pritchard. That video is up on the Not Sam YouTube now for everybody to see, not just the Patreon people. But I will say this, for the Patreon people, I would recommend checking out that Patreon page. It starts at only $4 a month. and it tears up from there. But we did a Q&A on Monday before Raw, and it was super, super fun. It was on video. People were able to jump in live and ask questions that I answered right there. I answered all the questions, and that's something that I'm going to do a lot more often over on Patreon. So if that's something you want to be a part of, if you just want to get ad-free episodes, there's bonus episodes that go up at least twice a month, sometimes more, including the Captive Audience series, where I trap somebody in my studio and make them watch wrestling that normally they never would. Check out patreon.com/NotSamWrestling and become a Not Sam shill in the community over there that we're building. I saw one of the shills at the Alamo Draft House this week when I was there to help Greg Sestero screen his new movie, Best Friends Part 2. I hosted the thing for him, but I got to meet one of you shills while I was there, and I loved that. And I love what we're building over there. So it's patreon.com/NotSamWrestling. But I digress. What I was talking about was doing these interviews, and it was like a hoop dream of mine to be able to sit down with all four guys, especially in this moment. You know, this would be like sitting down with the Shield really quickly after people realized how special they were. You know, this would be like sitting down with the Shield right after they became babyface, before Seth Rollins turned on them, you know, after they were doing the we're going to jump this guy, we're going to jump that guy stuff, when the Shield really cemented itself. I feel like, you know, I get Shield vibes from this Undisputed era, and I think that a lot of that is because of the real-life connection that they have, you know, and that goes right along with the Shield. The real-life connection that the Shield has, I think, is what made that group, one of the things that made that group so special, and I think it's something that makes the Undisputed era really, really special. On top of that, they're four of the best wrestlers in the world, and they're four guys that all came up the same way and have known each other the entire time and have been there helping each other the entire time. And to me, the Undisputed Era really is an example of what the new WWE and the new NXT look like. The Undisputed Era, looking at those guys and the fact that they are being remolded, whether you realize it or not, the Undisputed Era, Bobby Fish, Kyle O'Reilly, Roderick Strong, and Adam Cole are becoming superstars in front of our eyes. But they're not changing their names. They're not forgetting about their past. Their past is acknowledged. Their past is respected. But at the same time, they're morphing into the next phase of their career. And they're all doing it together, and it really is something special to see. So a week or two ago, they were at Ringside Fest together. I saw that they were booked to do Ringside Fest, and you guys know I always go down to Ringside Fest, and I did some interviews for Ringside Collectibles this year there, but I reached out to the guys, and I said, hey, you know, if you're going to be in town doing Ringside Fest, do you have time to do a podcast? And they literally, I'm talking, had an hour. They had an hour. We went from their autograph signing to the studio, and they left the studio and went to the airport. That's how much we all worked together to make sure that this thing happened, and I'm so glad that it did. This is going to be one of those interviews. I love, you know, these multi-person interviews when it's like this, when it's a group of guys that are a unit. And, you know, who knows how many chances anybody's going to get to really sit down with all four guys and have a conversation like this. So I think this is a special one. This is one I'm really, really excited about. This week on Not Sam Wrestling, my guests sitting down all together. And by the way, they said this was the first time that they did a signing, an autograph signing. They've never done an autograph signing, all four of them together. So I would imagine that this is one of the very few long-form sit-down interviews that they all four have done together ever. You know, maybe there's some on the internet. I don't know, but I haven't seen many of them. This is a special one, guys. This is Roderick Strong. This is Adam Cole. This is Kyle O'Reilly. This is Bobby Fish. They got their own action figures. They got their own T-shirts. They got their own everything. They got the NXT Tag Team Championships. And now, the four of them got me, Sam Roberts, as they are my guests this week on Not Sam Wrestling.
The Not Sam Wrestling interview.
Well, this is a treat. In studio, And we've been trying to make this work for a little while.
We have.
And it's Halloween.
And yeah, that's right, a trick or treat. We have been trying to make this happen for a while, and I was really happy. We found like an hour in the schedule that we could actually make this happen. The entire Undisputed Era is here. All four, regardless of what Mattel thinks in those 3-packs, all 4 members.
That's right. And it's Bobby's birthday.
Is today Bobby's birthday?
Ooh,
Yeah.
little
One and
known
only.
fact.
I didn't know. Happy birthday, Bobby Fish.
Thank
Bobby
you.
Fish, Kyle O'Reilly, Adam Cole, Roddy Strong,
Sam Roberts.
Sam Roberts.
Thank you, Sam.
Everybody's here. And on
Right.
your birthday, is this how you wanted to spend your birthday,
Everybody.
Bobby?
Yeah.
That's what I thought.
God, of
That's
course.
That's what was happening.
What
I
else would
paid
you be
extra
doing?
for this.
Roddy Strong reached out to me and he's like, Sam, look, it's Bobby's birthday. I want to do something
Right.
really
He's been talking
special.
about it
I
for
want to
so long.
surprise him. Yeah, exactly.
He's been talking about this birthday for years. I want to get the VIP experience for him.
Well, man,
So thank you, Roddy.
Yes. Anything for you, Bobby.
Yes.
we were kind of talking immediately before we turned the mics on about how much times have changed in the sense that you guys have become so busy. I mean, you're one of the big public faces of NXT at a time where I think NXT is still in the process of rebranding out of a developmental territory and into a promotion in and of itself. And I feel like the job of you four right now is to be kind of 4 of the faces of that, not developmental territory, but promotion.
It's just so cool to be part of this growth, just watching NXT. Like, since we've gotten there, it just seems to be getting bigger with every single show. It's
I was going to say, yeah, going off what Kyle said, we've only been here a little over a year. And I feel like the growth of NXT has been crazy. So,
Yeah, that occurred to me when I was sitting there in Brooklyn in August, and I was like the Undisputed Era was kind of just a thing that had been around in my mind. It's like, this is just part of what's in NXT.
Yeah.
And I was going, wait, that Adam Cole run-in and the formation and all this stuff, that was only a year ago.
Yeah.
Like, that's kind of
yeah.
wild how much has happened
it's bizarre.
in a single year.
Oh, when we went back to Brooklyn, it was crazy for me because they debuted, and I wasn't on the show. And I had a chance to watch those.
You were signed, but not on the show.
Yeah, I
Right.
had done
You was at
other
the show, I
takeovers. Yeah, I was at
remember,
the
yeah.
show.
Right.
Because I was in
Talking
the
to you
middle.
backstage before.
They filmed you in the box with Kurt Angle and stuff,
Yeah,
right?
they showed a little bit,
Right.
not as much. As I thought. I was trying to get, job
Still.
on Raw, but no, but just to watch like when they debuted and how much of an impact they made and how excited people were to see them. On a personal level, you're like, these are my friends being able to do what they love and debuting on such a grand stage. It was unreal to see.
And in that way, where like we're
Oh.
acknowledging the history, we're acknowledging who we are, this connection that
Yes.
everybody has. Like we're entering everything we did before this. It's not erased. We're actually bringing it with us
Yes.
into this world.
Well, that's what I was going to mention before with us and them really kind of going with this 4-person thing. It's kind of confirmation that with the NXT brand, like they are willing to go with that, where the history counts and where people know where we've been, what we've done or not done, and how long we've been doing this, and that like NXT specifically, speaking of it as that developmental brand, like for it to now we're being, doing this, and we've all got, I mean, how many years in the
1
business doing
million
it? Like it's
Combined,
not
it's
to
a
know.
million, right?
Yeah.
It's almost a crime still calling it a developmental brand because
Yeah.
NXT is the cool thing in wrestling right now. Everybody's watching it. Like, I don't know. I think it's the best
And
product.
Christ, if this
in
is
my opinion.
developmental, they better get moving on me. I don't have much more development I can do.
That's right. No,
Before I'm dead.
right. No,
Well,
I
you
guess
hit your
No,
second
it's-
puberty at 43, Bobby, so you got another
Right,
year.
like I'm hoping to hit 6 foot by the age of 50.
right.
It's one of those
I guess
things-
after that injury, you start looking at things a whole different way.
You do. It is what you would think the epitome of a developmental system would be, though. I mean, kind of for
Sure.
years talking before is you get like a great group of upper, echelon talent. You mix them in with, some guys that kind of start breaking out but don't have a ton of experience on the, at the top of the card for a long time on the indies, and then you get people that just don't know what's going on and they're just doing it for the first time.
Right.
And you intermingle all
Right.
of that, and you just have them be around each other. And it's one of those things where having experience used to go against you.
Yeah.
In a lot of ways, but now, the way it is, they see the value in that.
It's a different WWE.
That way, you're constantly learning. It's not just on the coaches. The coaches give them a lot of information, but we're always interacting, and people ask questions, and we learn from the newer people that come from a different background, and their understanding, trying to just see what their perspective on this new thing is, and it kind of makes us look outside of the box sometimes. So I thought it's just amazing that it took so long, but it's awesome to see that it's like, I feel it's the perfect combination to create superstars all across the board.
Yeah. And you're so right, because there was this feeling where this kind of this turn really kind of started in the era of like Kevin Owens, Finn Balor, Sami Zayn, where it's like these names came over. But you also, as a fan, and I think you guys can speak on it, but I think as people working there, I don't think anybody really knew, even when Kevin Owens was in NXT and doing well, it was like, we get why he's here, but we still aren't convinced that this has main roster compatibility, right? When Samoa Joe showed up at NXT, the thought was like, he's just there for NXT, and it's like it's that generation that's brought over and made the transition
change things
kind of possible. But I also think that you guys represent this other wave where it was when that generation of guys all kind of ended up on the main roster.
Yeah.
There was this feeling of like, well, what's left for NXT? And I do think that after most, if not all of those guys left, and the women too, that there was this rebuilding phase that happened. And right now, we're actually at this second peak. Right? Like, I mean, I tweeted about it. I was watching the tag title match that was on TV with you guys and the War Raiders.
Right.
And it's like incredible. I'm like, I can't believe, like, I wish more people need to know that this thing is on the WWE Network just as a weekly TV show.
Well, that's why I think NXT is always, as long as it keeps that format, is going to keep growing.
Yeah.
Because, like you had said, once guys leave and there's that lull period where it's like, oh, who's going to fill that spot? We were the guys to fill that spot. Eventually, when we leave, they're going to have guys ready to go who are going to fill that spot, and the brand is just going to stay hot, hopefully. As long as they can keep that formula going, I think it's going to be great for NXT.
Right.
So Roddy had already showed up. You guys had already done a couple of TVs before that Brooklyn takeover a year ago, right? You guys,
Kyle and I
had a
just
match.
came in individually. There was no mention of any real connection to each other or whatnot. I don't. They may have said something in commentary, but definitely no group sort of overtone.
Yeah.
Right. But you just showed up as a run-in.
Yeah.
So when you're about to run in at the Barclays Center there, what's going on in your mind? Are you pretty sure this is going to set the place on fire, or are you going, this is a new audience and I'm just doing a run-in and I'm the only one that hasn't had any TV exposure on this brand?
Yeah.
How are they going to respond?
Well, showing up that day, I was really nervous in the sense of, God, I hope they care. God, I hope they know who I am or react the way that WWE envisions. Because for me to be the closing segment of the pay-per-view, clearly they think it's going to go really well.
Yes.
But I was unsure.
Yes.
But until watching the show kind of unfold and seeing that there was this possibility that I was going to be there, then I started to get more excited because I'm like, okay, maybe people are going to be really jazzed. But the idea of running through the audience to get into the ring made me more nervous than anything else. Like,
just because you thought you might...
When you go down the ramp, it's nice and safe. You have one way that you're going. You go into the ring.
I don't know. Tell that to Titus O'Neil.
But going through the crowd is like a very... You're kind of unsure. But as far as the feeling going into it, I still didn't expect them to respond as positively as they did.
Yeah.
When I came out, that to me was... I mean, that's up there, top 3 favorite moments of my career for sure.
So this year, did you pat Matt Riddle on the back and go, my son, don't worry, they're going to love you. Like, you're the grizzled veteran now. It's like, trust me, I know.
He didn't have to run in through the crowd, though, because that was freaking nerve-wracking.
Yeah.
Like, sitting back there, we
you
did
guys
it
had to do
earlier
it.
in the
Yeah.
night.
We had
run
to do
through
it
the crowd.
earlier, yeah.
And there's a guy, like, one of the production guys, he's like, all right, I mapped out on my phone the route you're going to go. Like, and they were, like, watching his phone, like... in first person of like, okay, and then we go left and watch the ropes there.
Like
Don't
playing
jump
a video
over this.
game, like
first
person shooter.
I was like, wait, what? Oh, I was just so nervous sitting there, getting so hyped up. No, not yet. Like, I'm pretty sure we're supposed to go. No, not yet.
Yeah.
But that made it so cool too.
So
It's
cool.
so many guys do the sit in the crowd, which is awesome too. That's very cool to introduce people that way. But for us to have something different and not normal just helped the debut be
System
that much
shocking,
more
if
special.
you will.
Yeah, it
Looking
was.
back, it was. I mean, if I couldn't have picked a better way to do it. However, it was nerve wracking to run out there in the dark. Because you understand the lights are down, and this is your. Your shot to make, a memorable impact. And it's like you can go one way or the other with that.
I mean,
you can
even-
be remembered for something very good or something
Or a
somewhat.
Shockmaster. so something
Exactly.
happened.
Yeah. There you
By the
go.
way, not a lot of people know this, but I almost shockmastered myself
did.
on my debut. So I
How?
was wearing dress shoes, and those are hard to run and kick in.
Yeah, they're
And I remember
smooth on the bottom.
I had so much adrenaline as I'm running through, and I got into the ring, and as I went to run after Drew, I stumbled for a second, where I was like, "Can you imagine?"
just middle
my
of the ring.
debut,
And not
here he comes, and just face planting.
You want to just walk away. Oh, God. No, we're not part of this.
and not many people know this, Sam, but we had to talk Adam out of wearing the Stormtrooper helmet for his as well. He had it on.
He was
Adam,
gluing
we were
it.
like,
He's
Adam,
just back there gluing glitter to it, and you're like, you can't do
I
this.
don't know about this.
You really saved his ass on that one,
Yeah,
Bobby.
I did. I mean, honestly, Sam, I'm responsible for this whole thing.
It seems like it because that wouldn't have gone well. I always hold my breath at the moment of jumping over the barricade.
Yes.
I'm like, there's so many ways. All you have to do is catch a toe.
Oh, man.
Right?
Game
And
over.
Yeah. Because
Game
you have
over.
to look like you've done it 1,000 times. You have to look like you're so cool.
Yeah.
You have to look like this is just how I get around. Like I just jump over. I'm a parkour guy.
You all remember the kid growing up that couldn't put his feet on the top of the fence and jump over athletically, like the guy that had to crotch himself on top. Like, you don't
that
want to
was
be
me.
that guy.
Me too.
Yeah. That guy has a hard time getting laid. He just does.
He does,
you know?
true.
Like when I had to
It's
get
true.
on the guardrail
Still to this day.
when I wrestled Eric Young and jump off of it into Killian Dane. I
Yeah.
was like, oh my God, I got to stand on this thing for a second like an eagle. I'm like, oh, I'm going to fall.
Well, what was it like for you in NXT before your brothers got there?
It was very interesting, obviously, debuting with Austin Aries, who's someone like I have a long, long history with.
Yeah.
And I think expectations were for us to do, as much as we possibly could as a tag team. And once he got injured and, they were like, oh, what do we do with this guy? And it's one of those things where it's kind of like the model of my career. Like when I first tried out for Ring of Honor, it's kind of like, okay. And then it was like, well, we like you, but we just don't really know what to do with you. And, it was one of those things where I was speaking with some of the production people and just kind of telling them my story. And it was just something that I really wanted to get out there. And then they're like, oh, obviously, WWE's all about that kind of stuff, backstories and entertainment, just adding another layer to me. So it gave them an opportunity to kind of see where I was coming from and just at least do something with me, because other than just being a good wrestler, it was just one of those things where they knew I could have good matches with everybody, I believe, and they were just I was trying to build the trust in them. They realized they could put me in any situation. I'll do the best that I possibly can with it, and not really bitch or complain about anything, because that's not what I've been about or what I'll ever really be about. So I was just kind of trying to do my thing and earn my stripes. And, when it once they came and they started just having us interact and stuff, it was something that, I would hope either we'd have a long feud and something would happen.
It's going to develop into something.
Something. Yeah, just because naturally, because of the history. And, and I love the fact that they didn't shy away from it.
And were you
we talked
talking?
about.
Were you talking to these guys before they got here about here's what it's like here, here's what blah, blah,
A
blah.
little
Yeah.
bit. Once I
Yeah.
knew they were coming.
Right.
Yeah, once
Right.
I knew, I was just.
You had to be
know,
excited when you find that out.
Oh, of course.
Yeah.
Very much so. I mean, I have a terrible win-loss record against these three guys. But I do. I looked it up. It's brutal. It's brutal. But
That's why you chose to
You
be
got
on the
more
team.
wins
You're
on
like,
me, for sure.
No, not at all. No, but I looked at it. I have like a 70% lose rate. But yeah, it was just trying to prepare them and let them understand that as much as you feel like this place is different than anywhere that you've been, it's the same in many, many ways. You still, wrestling's wrestling. And,
right.
To just believe in yourself, because obviously they've gotten to a point because they're very freaking talented, and nothing's going to change when they get here, but they're going to have a lot more opportunity to show the world.
But
Yeah.
and a big reason though that it felt the same and so much fun is the fact that we're all here together. Like that
Right.
to me made such a you share the pressure together, you share the joys together. If you're frustrated, you share that together. So that whole process has been great cuz truth be told, we would be a group behind the scenes personally if we weren't one on TV anyway. So it's just funny that we ended up being a faction together on television.
You know, when you lead a busy life, when you're dedicated to your hobbies, when it's whatever it is, things can get a little tricky with our partners. You know, I have to sit here, I do radio shows, I do podcasts, I collect my wrestling figures, I'm watching wrestling constantly. I need to be able to know that at a moment's notice, if my wife needs attention, I can give it to her. You need to do that for your partner too, because if you can do that for your partner, they're going to leave you alone to listen to this podcast more. And how do you do that? It's easy. The secret ingredient, Blue Chew. You can increase your performance and get the extra confidence that you need in bed by going to BlueChew.com. Listen, I know we're getting personal here, but we've known each other for a long time, so let's talk about it. BlueChew.com, that's blue like the color, brings you the first chewable with the same FDA-approved active ingredients as Viagra and Cialis. That's how you know they work. You take them anytime, day or night, full stomach, whatever. And since they're chewable, they're going to work twice as fast as a pill. You're going to be ready whenever an opportunity arises. It's prescribed online and shipped straight to your door in a discreet package, so there's no in-person doctor's visit, no waiting in the pharmacy, no awkwardness. Blue Chew is made in the USA, and since they prepare and ship direct, Blue Chew's cheaper than any pharmacy. It's amazing, and it's the secret to how I can sit here, obsess over my wrestling stuff, be busy all the time, and still make sure that my wife is happy because she knows that at a moment's notice, I'm ready to go. And I think you know what I mean. And I know that at a moment's notice, I'm ready to go. Confidence is key, and Blue Chew is going to give you that confidence. Right now, I've got a special deal for you. Just visit BlueChew.com and get your first shipment for free when you use the special promo code Roberts. That's my last name because I'm the one that's telling you to do it. All you have to do is pay $5 shipping. That's BLUE Chew.com, promo code Roberts to try it for free. You're going to thank me. Your partner's going to thank me. It's going to be amazing. Blue Chew is the better, cheaper, faster choice. Trust me when I tell you. Now, were you signed? Did you three sign at the same time?
Similarly,
Yeah, very close
all
to
in
the
the
same
like time frame process.
Yeah. Because I would imagine that once all four of you know, not only is it obviously this is the goal, this is WWE, this is NXT, this is the big show, this is where I'm going anyway, but to know that all your buddies are there around the same time, it has to make it into a no-brainer.
I mean, we the three of us, and then later the four of us, we shared it amongst each other a few times. Like, well, they're really going to go with this. Like, if we could pick this perfectly, it'd be for us to do this together.
Right.
Like, to be here is the goal or whatever you want to call it. But then to be here and then get thrown into it with your buddies.
Right.
I mean, like, can you make it any better? Like, is somebody, I'm waiting for the other shoe to drop. Like, I'm waiting for somebody to come in and be like, it was a big joke.
And I could be wrong, but we didn't know that we were going to be a unit until the day of, right? Mm-hmm. It was like we had no idea.
Like the day of TakeOver.
No, because when we
we
came
knew.
in,
They just didn't tell you.
We didn't tell you.
I just don't remember.
We kept to
We're
ourselves.
talking. Yeah, when we came in
It was
for
very-
those TVs, they
Very
were like,
shortly before
Yeah.
before TakeOver.
Yeah. But I mean, I remember finding out about it.
Yeah.
And Kyle and I just got like, what? Like, really? Because like, if I could have it any way I would want it coming in, it would be that. And then when the discussion came, with Roddy, and that was brought up as an idea, and it was like, is this a joke? Like, now you're gonna add our other buddy?
Right.
Like, okay.
Right.
This is,
Well, do you think that has anything to do with, or maybe a lot to do with, Triple H knowing that, like, he felt that his best work, maybe, or that his favorite work was when he was around Sean and when he was around his friends? Like, do you
I
think that?
think so.
Very possible.
yeah,
it could be.
Like,
the more I'm here, the more I think like these guys know they just know what they're doing, and I don't know if they've always got things planned or if they just take advantage. Like, but man, they just somehow they seem to have the right answer.
Yeah.
You know,
I think a lot of it's organic too. When they see like they maybe test the waters on things like just interactions
Chemistry.
between us, and when fans were like so intrigued by it, they're like, oh, maybe that's something. Like they do such a great job of just like seeing.
Yeah.
But they do that with a lot of people, like just testing little things, putting them in situations to gauge reaction, and then they go whatever way that is. They tend to go that way, and it's very impressive.
I feel like sometimes they know you better than you know yourself.
Really?
It's so strange.
Really?
Yeah. In some
They
ways,
do.
like
They pay attention.
Yeah.
Oh, very
I
much.
think
Yeah.
so. I
Very
think
much so.
Yeah. Isn't that interesting that like you guys are doing stuff where you're like, we want to do this, but I hope it'll work. I don't know. And they already know, like, yeah, we know
Right.
we know it'll work.
Yeah.
Yeah, we got
it.
this. Don't worry about it.
They have such a good track record of those things working out. Like in the
Yeah.
early concept meetings about the group, when we're coming up with a name and a look and design and things of that nature, like he would mention the Horsemen, he would mention DX and the NWO. Like
Who's
just
that, Triple H?
Yeah, Triple
Yeah.
H. Not like that's what he wants, but like just trying to give us sort of a concept, like a feeling
Right.
for what. Okay, we kind of get what they're looking for here.
Get us on the same page. And like, I mean, for me, it's just crazy that when Kyle and I first started tagging, like, there was a ton of Arn Anderson and Tully Blanchard stuff that like we mimicked or we looked at, or like, and as growing up, I was a big fan, and like to share a sentence with them,
Yeah.
Right.
coming out of Triple H's mouth, it's still to me is crazy.
All right, so let's say, just for argument's sake, let's say you're Arn and Tully, right? Adam, is it crazy for me to say you'd be in the Rick position in the sense that if there is a leader of the group, you might be the leader of the group?
I think that's fair.
Wait,
Then
I thought you were saying I'm Arn and Tully. I'm
Combined.
both of them together.
Yeah.
Okay, so
I'm
does that
JJ
make
Dillon.
him
JJ
win?
Dillon. Yeah, that's right. Roderick Strong, which fourth member are you?
Can I answer?
Yeah, everybody can answer. If you've got opinions, I want to know.
You guys can answer.
I have my thought of who I see it as, but that's also probably who my favorite horsemen were.
Who do you see me as? Paul Roma.
That's
Go ahead,
right.
say it, Sam.
Actually, you were
can
my
say it,
Mongo.
Sam.
Mongo.
I'll be your
Nobody
Mongo,
wants to be
Sam.
Mongo.
I'll be your Mongo. Is that kind of like a redating now?
I think
What's
so.
happening here?
Yeah, that's my Mongo over there. Which
you guys
fourth
tell
member?
me.
Okay, which fourth member do you see Roddy Strong as of the Horsemen?
Which incarnation of the Horseman?
Well, that's the question,
There could be
right?
any, I guess, right?
Yeah,
Any
yeah,
member.
yeah,
Yeah.
Former member.
Are we gonna limit it to certain horsemen? Because I mean, it got quite convoluted.
It
no?
did, and I mean, in my
Like, we're not going
mind,
that far.
I don't think so. If we've got Rick, Arn, and Tully,
Right, we talking like Wyndham, Luger.
that's in my mind. Like in my, I'll tell you,
right, that's the horsemen I grew up with. Like,
in my
that's the-
mind,
Was,
I
Ole,
would.
was Ole in the Horsemen?
Oli was
Absolutely.
originally.
Yeah. I'd say you're an Ole. I would use an Ole.
I say Barry Windham.
Barry Windham.
That's
Barry
my
Windham
pick.
would be
Ding
That's
was
my pick.
short-lived.
Sting was a
but
horseman.
Ding.
Also a
Whoa.
horseman.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I mean, it'd be cool to say like I'm the Sting, but I don't know if you want to be Horseman Sting. You know what I mean? He didn't really have. That's not really a legacy. Do you have?
Funny.
You think?
Start wearing crow makeup, Roddy.
That's at home.
I think
I like
Roddy
to wake
could
Troy up like that. Just
God, poor kid.
I just point the bat at him.
Just mortified for the rest of his life.
Do you have any, Bobby?
I
you
think
thought-
Roddy could fit into like a few different ones.
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of what makes us a little bit unique, even between the four of us. Is like
Versatility.
obviously the brand is what we're pushing and what we feel like's working. But I think individually, and it was even pointed out to us recently by someone in the business, and it in the industry, and I think that's part of what kind of makes this cool too, is that there's this individual part of things that we can kind of get into, but at the same time the group stays solid, and we're all I feel like we're all capable of multiple things,
Yeah, I would agree with that. I mean, yeah, and I think that there's
multiple
no
roles.
It's not like you're a new incarnation of the Horseman. I think the only Horseman, Horseman, DX, even Shield, all those comparisons are just what you guys said before, which is this group that's about the group, but also is a group regardless of what's on camera, regardless of what characters we're playing. Like, this is who we are.
And to me, it's just a compliment for what we've we've done and established in such a short time to already be getting those comparisons. And I like, what else I like about this group is one night I could main event, or Roderick, or Kyle, or Bobby, or as a team. So much of that is interchangeable within the group, which is why I think the group works so well.
And for me personally, and these guys know, I'm very, very hard to please when it comes to wrestling. And just the amount of respect I have for these guys is unbelievable. And it is, just like Adam said, interchangeable when it comes to that. And that, to me, to be around that is, it means the world. Because I really think that, there's a lot of great people in wrestling, and but so driven and focused at constantly becoming better.
Yeah.
No one here is settled.
No.
We know we're good at what we do, but we're not great yet in our heads. And that's the thing that I love being around.
We're motivated by each other. Constantly.
Big time.
And, we've been doing it for a long time. I've been around wrestling the longest of anybody here, and I still feel like, that fire in me. Because being around these guys, it's just constantly. It's just so much fun.
And that translates, by the way, to audiences. Like, people get that, right? Like, you can't fake that, really.
Yeah.
Like, people understand, like, this is the real deal. That's why I think people like it so much. When you saw these three doing their thing, right? And it was really starting to shape up into something cool. Were you happy being the foe, or were you on some level going like, I need to be the fourth member. I need to be with these guys.
Well, it's interesting because I had been pitching for a while to become a bad man. Like,
A bad man.
Right now, I'm a very
We call
good
him
man.
heels in the professional wrestling business.
No. But that's
I'd like
what
to
I
be a
call it,
bad man. Wasn't that Rikishi's theme?
Yeah.
I'm a bad man. Yeah,
There you go.
you want to do like a Rikishi type thing.
Yeah.
I get that.
No, but I always, before I came here, like, I feel like I'm better suited as a heel. Like, just the way I wrestle, like, just my personality. And for some reason, people really like to dislike me. So, honestly, that's one thing I found out about myself, be it real life or, because I'm very stuck in my ways, and I am who I am. And it's, when I saw them doing that, I mean, obviously, I didn't really think they were going to go that way. It was just, so it was one of those, like, hopefully, if I do become a heel, it'll be with these guys.
Right.
Because if I had to do that and be against, be a heel when these guys, it's an uphill battle with that.
I can speak for this too, is with the three of us, it was a great unit, but to say Roderick was a perfect fit, I mean, like the group took off to me when he joined.
Yeah, it completely
became a
elevated
foursome,
everything. Yeah, it really did.
That's when stuff started getting crazy, and more people started buying T-shirts and the main events and stuff. Like, it was a perfect fit.
As a fan, as I was watching, when it was the three of you guys, I was like, these are obviously, these are the three guys that I love that I've been following forever. But I'm going, I wonder where they're going with this. Like, I wonder how high they're really going to go with this. Is it right here, or is it going to go all the way up? Once you became this, what I like to call a fearsome foursome.
Hey,
I'm good.
hashtag fearsome foursome.
Once you became this foursome, though, I was like, okay, this could be what the show is all about.
Yep. Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I think it really has elevated things. What's your favorite thing that you guys have done in NXT? Because obviously, it almost feels like as much as your history is respected and acknowledged and everything, it feels like because you guys have done so well in NXT and because the Undisputed Era has become this thing, that your history is that. It's your history. And I feel like in the best possible way, and this is what you want as a performer that's evolving, people are paying attention to the stuff you're doing now way more than the stuff that you did before.
Sure, I agree.
Yeah.
Well, for me, the one that sticks out the most was New Orleans WrestleMania weekend for TakeOver. I became the first ever North American champion. That was the night Roddy joined.
Yes.
So we had the tag team championships. Bobby got to walk out on stage with us as we're in front of the Dusty Cup.
Yes.
And when the four of us were standing there, I was like, whoa, we've
That was
arrived.
a big moment.
And that's what it became. That's what I mean. Like,
Yeah.
throughout the show, it's like, the Undisputed Era could be the whole show. That was the ladder match, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
What was wild about that ladder match, and I mean, it speaks to what NXT is right now, is that I went out into the crowd to watch it just to hear what the reactions were for everybody. And usually in these ladder matches, there's one guy who might not win, but you can tell the crowd is really behind him. And, like, all of a sudden Lars Sullivan was becoming more popular than ever. And EC3 was there, and it was like everybody's like, yeah, EC3 is going to have this moment. But then Velveteen climbed up, and he would get even more cheers. And then you get up and grab the title, and I'm going like, oh, but they wanted Velveteen, but it's just as many cheers for you. It's like they loved the match.
Yeah.
They loved everybody, and it wasn't this thing of like, we wanted him, but it was him. They were just there for the ride.
Yep.
Yeah.
And as long as the story of the match was told right, the fans were going to leave happy, and they did.
For
And
sure.
it was like, you don't see that
We owe
often.
so much of the success of this to the fans because every single takeover, it's just they get better and
bonkers.
better, and they just show us so much support and so much hate, and it's just it's perfect. It's just helped us and getting those reactions, man.
It makes all
that
the
goes for
difference.
the brand, and it goes
Yeah,
for
for the
I
brand,
mean the
yeah.
NXT brand and for just the takeovers in general.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
just say,
mean, they,
but
you
you
know.
like watching the shows, just talking about that, like just the guys, like there is a competitiveness like at the Performance Center in NXT
Yeah.
that is very intense.
You
Yeah.
want to be the one talked about.
Everyone's
know?
jockeying for position, and it's one of those things that Sean talks about in class. Like that's how it used to be. Like, and right now,
Right.
honestly,
Sean who?
yeah, Shawn Michaels.
Oh,
Sean Hayes.
Yeah, and Sean Hayes
Sean
in the weight
Hayes.
room talks about it as well. But it's really true. You just look at everybody. Like the product is drastically different from when I started. I feel
Yeah, I do too.
every match, no matter whatever the main event, it's a big match feel.
Yeah.
and the wrestling's different, and it's so different than what you see on the indies and stuff.
it is a
There's-
team. Like there's that competitiveness, but everybody is a team pushing and striving for nothing but perfection in
Yeah.
the best possible overall show.
Yeah. But back to answer your question. Same
Yeah,
thing
favorite
Adam
moments.
Said, oh, that was definitely
That was it for
in
you
my
too.
in my career.
Really?
Yes.
You were like, this is what it's all led to kind of thing.
Well, I've just
Yeah.
pretty much, and now I felt like literally one chapter had closed and one was opening, and it's like a whole different career now.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, like
Right,
honestly,
yeah,
it
totally.
really
Yeah.
is. Like,
Yeah, it
true.
is.
For
Very
everything
true.
I did.
I agree
before,
with that.
Like the feeling when I was pulling it, like I'd never felt that before, and just like the anticipation. It's the stuff you get told, like when you hear it and feel it, you know. And I was like, these people were so excited for this moment right here.
Yeah.
Right.
And they care about us, and we're doing this together, and it was just wild.
Yeah.
Was it exciting for guys that grew up as like students of the game, like just wrestling fans growing up, to be in a War Games match when you're returning that
For
concept
me-
on this level?
For me, growing like the first wrestling that like I remember the Crockett years and the War Games and stuff like that being stuff that really grabbed my imagination as a kid, and you know, watching them, and then to know that I was going to be in one, and now going to be in another one. It's crazy to the kid, to the 13-year-old kid inside me that yeah, it's surreal.
65-year-old Frank.
Yeah, but I mean that's part of it, right? Like that little kid that wanted to do this, like that's why this is all happening. Like that
Yeah.
never dies. Like you're like, oh my god, this is
100%.
this is what I was doing. But you guys all felt the same way about the War Games match?
Oh yeah, for sure.
Just conceptually.
And the
being
first time, like it was the first time NXT has done it. First time
WWE.
WWE has done it. Like
Yeah.
it's just to have that kind of like pressure. It's a good feeling of pressure.
And
It's
their
like,
trust.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
trust.
Right.
That's it's crazy that the trust was
like they
there
created
for
a new
that.
brand
you know?
with that match alone. We're in the first two matches of it, like
Right.
forever in history books. Like I think that's pretty cool.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
amazing.
It's always so exciting. Like I love the little details and stuff. Like it was so exciting to me to go in and see like that they built a platform in between the two rings.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, why wouldn't they have thought of that all
Right.
those years
Yeah.
ago? Like that, like little things like that are like we've modernized this concept without
Which
like,
was the hardest surface of
Oh,
all
yeah.
time.
really.
That thing in between.
Yeah.
Oh
Yeah, the
my
metal strip in
Yeah.
between the two
That
rings.
metal
Yeah.
strip was really
Yeah.
hard. The
Yeah.
metal was hard.
Well, I guess they have
what
to
they
extra
made it
hard
with
metal.
actually came from a different planet. It was,
Just an
They had
adamantium
adamant.
strip.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, I guess they would have to, right? Because it's so small that if you made it out of a weak metal, it would bend and it would
Yeah,
defeat the
sure,
purpose or
There you go,
tear or
Sam.
whatever.
That's why you get paid the big bucks.
That's right. Yeah, for my knowledge of physics. So who do you guys? Sean has been brought up twice now, I think, in this conversation. Is he kind of somebody that you guys do a lot of talking to, learning from type stuff? Is Shawn Michaels the
he's
guy?
He's our head coach.
Yeah.
Well, like our coach for our
For
class.
you guys, yeah.
Yeah. But I mean, yeah. So we get obviously we haven't had an opportunity to spend a lot of time with him recently. He's just been busy getting ready for his big return.
He's got to take out a couple of brothers of destruction.
Exactly.
Right.
That's-
Yeah.
What a
That's
tough
right.
gig
He's
that
got
is.
a full plate.
Yeah.
He's got a full plate.
Yeah. I mean, it's been I've had the chance to be in his class since he started. And it's unbelievable. It's like you going from high school to college.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, what are your takeaways? Because y'all, I'm sure, grew up Shawn Michaels fans. Everybody,
for sure.
everybody who is a wrestling fan grew up on some level a Shawn Michaels fan. To now get to know this guy, not just as like I appreciate him as like a fan and like, yeah, he's the man, but now you guys get a very rare thing of getting to kind of go into his brain and take stuff away and really start to figure out, is this guy just good at matches or is he a wrestling
Well,
genius?
his passion is unparalleled.
Yeah.
His passion
Yeah.
for it and just his drive and determination towards everything business related it's like I hope, one day I'll have that same passion at his age when my career is said and done. Like, and to come back and do all this like for us, and he genuinely cares about NXT and about all of his guys and about making it the best possible product that he can.
As much as he micromanages like every little thing in his matches, there's just a lot of opinions and thoughts he has that made me feel better about myself. That I was so hard on stuff, and like that's okay to be that way as long as it's not affecting your life. But yeah, like he said, he's just so passionate still.
Yeah.
Well, and he's arguably the greatest performer our
is.
industry's
You could
ever
absolutely-
known.
that's an
So,
easy
like,
argument
if you
to make,
You have access to this person, which the four of us do, and you don't take advantage of it. Like,
I think he's
just
done a
doesn't
good
make
job
sense,
of translating it.
yeah, very good.
Because I don't think there's always people that are good that don't necessarily
Right.
like translate their thought process in that.
Yes.
And
Yeah,
Some
well,
people are
the
good
coolest
players,
thing
not
too
coaches.
is because not only is he a wrestling genius, but again, just to reiterate this, he cares so much.
Oh yeah.
Like he's not coming to the performance center because he's punching a clock, just like he didn't show up to work when he was an active wrestler just punching a clock. He wanted to be the best. He's the best coach.
Yeah.
He's unbelievable.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and I've only gotten like a little glimpse into it. I interviewed him and I was talking to him. This was, a couple years ago, and talking to him about a return match, and not necessarily like, hey, are you going to have another match? But like, why are you so against that? And he just took like a couple minutes to just explain to me in his mind the story of his character, which started in the Rockers and literally went all the way through to that match at WrestleMania with The Undertaker, and how this is the end to this story. And it blew my mind.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Because I'm like, you really have, you have reasoning and rationale behind all this stuff, and it has nothing to do with, it has to do with the artistic merit and the story that I'm telling and wrestling. And it's kind of, it's really cool to see that. Do you guys look at something like that and get also inspired to know that even once you're done wrestling, there is a version of this life where it's still coursing through your blood and you're still making a living doing stuff inside the business?
We would always talk about it too, and it's just one of those things. Obviously, before you're here, you're like, it's a lot more talk, I guess, than you really realize. But once you're in the system and everything, you realize like,
you can shock
this
it.
is what we've been talking about. The things we wanted to do. We could like do all of this like for the rest of our life. We don't have to like start booking an indie promotion just to keep that like going.
Right, right.
It's amazing.
I don't have to start sewing on the side.
Yeah, it really is. It's awesome. What about Triple H? What have your takeaways been from working with him on the level? I mean, and I've only seen kind of on the periphery. I've watched him before these takeovers and stuff like that.
He's
and
truly brilliant.
It really is.
Anytime
It's
someone has
unbelievable.
a question or a concern about a match, not just involving us, he could be
Anybody.
talking to us, someone runs up, we need this or this, and he just has it. Like, he's just, he has his hand on the pulse with everything. He's a genius. Really.
It's almost like he's a savant for this business. It's like, what?
How could you know all this? The logic that just seems to be constantly running through his brain as it pertains to wrestling is like nothing I've seen.
And the level of busy that man is,
Oh, my God.
Yeah.
but being able to stay as sharp and as passionate, like he was. I know there's a cliche, but you talk about people born to do something.
Yeah.
He's the epitome of that.
I mean, just in the way he conversates, just the fact that there'll be, when you stop, when you shake hands and you say hello, it's not, hey man, how's it going? It's, for a full 3 seconds. If that's all it is, if it's just a hello, there'll be a full stop, eye contact. Hey, man, you doing okay? You doing all right? And then move. But it's this moment of, like, that's a real connection that most people don't even have the brain power to kind of stop and do this and then go on to the next thing and then go on to the next thing.
Yeah.
But it's, you're right. It's pretty amazing.
It's
to
just
see.
Very inspiring.
Yeah,
Very
and
inspiring.
One of those things working for this company and just WWE and just understanding, like you've always heard about Vince's work ethic.
Yes.
And then like seeing Triple H's work ethic. Like how do you not want to work for these people? How
Right.
do you not want to give everything
Yeah.
that you have? Even at the PC, like with the coaches, like Matt Bloom's an amazing
Yeah.
dude, he's an amazing guy. I mean, obviously, I didn't really know him at all before going there. And just his general interest in everybody's well-being, their family.
Yep.
It's wild. Like, how do you not wake up and be like, I'm freaking lucky as can be?
Yeah.
Right.
And I'm
You're
ready to give this
surrounded by
company everything.
quality
Yeah.
human beings.
Yeah.
You know, you're surrounded by quality
It's
people.
easy to give your all when everyone around you is giving their all.
Yeah.
Right.
Like it's very easy, and then we love it on top of it.
So what about making it a family affair? Like, I know Adam Cole, your girlfriend,
Yeah.
showed up on NXT TV. She's not a full-time member of NXT or anything, but she was, I think, a couple weeks ago on NXT TV.
Yeah.
Of course, Roddy Strong's wife is a member of NXT and is doing live events and things like that right now. Do you guys...
And badass.
Yeah, yeah. Do you guys like having that, like, all conjoined, or is there any part of you that goes, like, you know, there should be some separation, too?
Well, I'll start because mine is probably different than his. His will be good. More than no. But honestly, it was something that I never really wanted. But and Marina never really had any general interest in wrestling other than just being a fan of it. She admired, like, obviously all my friends, like people that are really, really good at it and seeing what it takes. But like, the more she was around it, once Rhonda started doing it, and like the talk of it.
I would imagine it didn't help your cause that Shayna Baszler came in and excelled and had the time of her life. Like, that probably also influences Marina to go. Sure. That seems like a good time.
But yeah, it was something I was against. But then I realized, like, it was more just fear on my behalf, I guess, that, like, holding someone to a standard and blah, 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 blah. There was just a lot of things for me personally with that. But
Oh, meaning that you hold yourself to such a standard in
so I'm
wrestling.
going to hold that person. And
that's your
if
wife.
they don't have the same mentality of, like, being the best they possibly can be at something, I would have an issue with that.
Right.
But she's a maniac like I am, and she takes it very serious. And that's all I ask is to give your all, be it if you're good at it or not.
Right.
Like, but she's really fallen in love with it. And to me, the crazy thing is just seeing her being a natural when it comes to showing her personality and not being hard, because that was the hardest thing for me to ever do.
Right.
And that is like super easy for her to do. And then the wrestling. So yeah, it's way better than I ever expected it to be. And I'm enjoying the process of watching her grow and become a superstar.
Do you coach? Or do you try to step away because you know how,
I was all hands on deck
Yeah.
at first, and that was very bad for us.
It was, yeah.
I'm very aggressive.
Well, I mean, that's why
And I
kids
want-
have bad relations with their parents, like in high school, because their parents start getting on, and the kids need
Yeah.
some independence. And
Well, and then once she got, because I started working with her a little bit before she started.
Right.
I knew she was going to get signed, so. And then when she got there, like, the coaches have been great. Like, they work with it. So I enjoy just watching the progress more than trying to make the progress.
Right.
If that makes any sense. It's been fun, though.
it seems like it's the most healthy way to do it, too.
Yes.
Yeah. What about with Britt?
Yeah, so, well, I had met Britt, and Britt was already wrestling
Right.
at that point. So as far as having her around or working shows together, I love that. But the thing I like the most is she's still early in her career, so getting to see her experience things for the first time, like she went to Japan for the first time. So to see how excited she was that she got to go over there and wrestle in Cork and Hall was awesome. It's like I'm getting to relive it too.
Yeah, totally.
So, and again, yeah, she works very, very hard. Just being with someone who shares the same love that you do is very enjoyable. So, yeah, it's great.
And it's got to fuel you, too. It's like it reminds
sure.
you, especially, and I would imagine for both of you, the stuff that's new to your significant others that they start enjoying, it must spark something in you that you're like, oh, yeah, I remember the first time I did that.
Absolutely.
Like, that is,
Yep.
this is an amazing thing that we're doing.
The thing I missed, though, is she was just like a casual fan. So I could get her, her opinion on everything was so new.
Right.
Now she's in it, so she's
Right, so you could just get her take on
I'd be
like what
"So
happened
what did you
on
think of that?"
right.
Like, she'd be like, "Oh, that was not very good." I mean, and trying to keep that kind of in her so she knows when she's not doing something.
But now she knows too much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like, well, they're working hard. Okay. You kind soul.
Do you guys have any I don't know, fears is the right word, but do you have any thoughts about this idea that people always tend to point out the guys from NXT that go to the main roster, and they're not quite as big as they were on NXT. There are definitely plenty of examples of people that go to the main roster and completely excel. You know what I mean? But fans tend to
dwell on the negative.
On the guys that go like, well, I liked him in NXT, and now he's not blah, 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 and that happens. Do you have any thoughts about how what you're doing now translates to a Raw or to a SmackDown? Or do you feel like because we didn't know this would translate to NXT, we're just going to keep doing what we're doing?
Well, I think some of that, and also because of the people before us, and with like the coaches, and they're getting a better understanding of how we as wrestlers, our group, how we need to attack when we get that opportunity. I think I have no fear at all. I honestly believe 1,000% that we can do whatever we want and be successful because we're going to do whatever it takes. I mean, adjustments may need to be made or whatever, but just throw us in the fire.
I'm 100% positive of this, and that like as good as this has been and continues to be, like we are just scratching the surface.
Yeah.
Like it was one dynamic when it was the three of us, and then plug Roddy in and pull me out because that was the timing of things, and then there was a different dynamic. And I think people were curious as to see, well, what's the dynamic when the four of them get when it's the four of them, and does that even work? And I think early on we see that it works, and I don't know exactly where this is going to go, but I'm excited for where it's going to go because I really feel like with NXT and with this thing that we've been doing specifically, like we've only scratched the surface.
Yeah.
And it's just going to continue to get better.
Yeah. Did you, Adam Cole, did you have any sort of, I think now it's not a concern at all because you guys have developed such an identity behind what the Undisputed Era is. But when this idea of a faction first starts getting formed, do you in your head go like, okay, we need to keep this away from the Kingdom or the Bullet Club or any other faction that I've done before that's gotten a lot of notoriety so that it feels fresh, not like a rehash?
Sure.
Yeah.
I never really had that fear because mainly, even though I have been for generally the most part of my career, I've been in a faction of some sort, but each faction was filled with different individuals. So to me, it's easy because Kyle O'Reilly and Bobby Fish and Roderick Strong are so different than the Young Bucks and Kenny Omega, or different than Matt Taven and Michael Bennett and Maria. So that transition to me has been
like Maria,
that transition's been easy and fine just because again the parts are all different.
Yeah.
So but I do like the fact that I've been in so many factions before because I'm just more generally used to the idea of what it's like to work and be in a group. So, but I love this group.
Yeah.
More than any before.
I think what you have too is you have a different Adam Cole. I mean, when you're talking about those other groups, like you're talking about a young Adam Cole. Like, I mean, I can remember back to some of those time frames too, and like just younger in the business, younger age, like just a different, it's a different Adam Cole. Yeah.
Yeah, and I don't even know
I'll take this Adam Cole because I didn't really like that Adam Cole.
You did.
You
guys did not.
I've never really liked him.
Yeah.
You didn't.
All over the place.
Yeah,
Just
I've never really liked him.
Young, ego-driven maniac. Yeah, no, I get that.
Yeah,
I
not
get
sure.
that.
I don't like his hair now.
Right.
You
Well, you
know?
saw what Mattel did. They had
I'm
to create
envious.
like extra plastic
Luscious
to make
locks.
the luscious locks go all the way
I
down.
love my hair on that action figure.
See you next time. Like
hate
so
it.
straight down. It's hard as a rock.
And I don't know if anybody even. Well, I guess people realize, but I don't know if people put two and two together with just how young you were when some of those factions were happening because, you did so well so young in Ring of Honor, on the independents and stuff like that, that people may not realize that
Adam was 11 when he started.
Really?
Yeah, 11.
Wow, and he only did 2 years there, so that's incredible. But yeah, I mean, I don't know if people fully appreciate like you're specifically at this moment in your career now where all that experience, I'm sure, clicks in, and like Bobby just said, you become a different performer.
Absolutely. Yeah. Especially again, working with these guys, we bring out certain things from each other that we wouldn't otherwise if we weren't a group. So I mean, people forget lots of times that I'm 29. They think I'm a lot older. But yeah, all that experience has helped a ton leading to this. And again, I know we had touched on this before, but just being conscious of always improving and always getting better makes all the difference to me. That's what's going to keep the group fresh. That's what's going to keep the group getting better and better. So all that stuff is vital to our success that I'm confident we're going to be able to nail.
Is there any weirdness from people that have maybe been at the Performance Center for like 2 years and just kind of starting to get something when you guys kind of come in and instantly
I'm sure.
In the very but you don't really hear it.
Right. If there is, I'm not conscious of it because I don't pay any attention to that stuff. Right. Honestly, like, and I'm not trying to be above anything or anything like that, but like, I don't have time for the negativity.
There was some for me when they started because I was like, man, I've been here for a while. I've been doing the same old song.
Right.
Yeah. If you don't like your spot, like, get yourself out of it. That's not on me, you know?
Right. And not to sound, I'm not just saying this either, but again, we had been talking about the team of NXT. Everyone is pretty freaking fantastic when it comes to supporting each other and wanting the best for each other. Everyone tries to help each other. It's a cool environment. It's not just something we say because we're supposed to. It's something we say because that's how we feel.
Like I was saying, the mixture of people are used to now, like, more experienced guys coming in, but then being able to work, like we work with younger guys on live events and stuff.
All the time.
Like
Yeah.
that. So I think the understanding of that, and then those guys being able to be in the ring and learn so much from, like wrestling Adam or Kyle, like, I think that's what makes it a lot different now. Is like he said, it is like legit a team.
Yeah.
Like, we're there to make them better. They're there to learn, but they make us better because they're putting us in a situation
100%.
that we haven't really been in. Working with guys with such little experience. And we were having this conversation, and I'm just sitting here thinking, like, the last 4-man group that I was ever in was Generation Next.
Right.
And how big of an impact and, like, game-changing that was. And then I was just going through all this stuff in my head just to realize, like, to be able to do, and what I thought of that in that moment and how big that ended up being for Ring of Honor's history, like, just to realize, like, and we weren't even really friends, me and those guys. We became close, a couple of us, but
you weren't put together because you already had this relationship.
Yeah, and that's so just, I don't know.
It's funny that you bring that time frame up because being who I was trained by a guy that came up through Ring of Honor, Tony DeVito, after ECW, and so like I saw from the crowd for the most part because I was kind of paying dues at that time coming in when Tony was still working. I saw the formation of Degeneration X, or Generation X. Yeah. Jeez,
that would have been a cool group. To
yes, cool. maybe. But I mean, I saw it. So then to watch that process and now to be in a 4-person thing. Now,
it'd be one thing if we were coming in and getting a push, for lack of a better term, and we were crapping the bed, but we're not. Like, we're getting these opportunities because we're delivering. Yeah. And we're doing a bang-up job, if I must say so myself. So
you must.
I think.
Gun to the head. You must.
Yeah, so what, you're just, like, kind of realizing the parallels between what you went through
like,
with that and that you're doing it now just on a higher level.
19 then, because we were just talking about, like, different performers.
Yeah.
Just being so young and seeing that and, like, what I thought of that at that time, and like, just, I don't know, we're in WWE, NXT, and like, this is a big deal already, and we're gonna make this an even bigger deal, and just, I don't know, it just made me very happy with the way my career has been and how lucky I am to be in this situation.
Isn't it an interesting thing? And I think that a lot of people who get to this point, I think they realize it. I know that I think about it sometimes that, like, when you're young, when you're 19 or whatever, and you have this idea and you've got a little bit of buzz about you and you're like, you know what? I can really turn this into something. But you can map out your career in your head in that moment and go like, okay, 2 years there, then I'm going there, then I'm going to be there, and then I'm going to be over here. And you don't realize until now that you have no idea what direction the road's going in, how you're going to get to where it is that you're going. But you get to where you're going exactly how you should, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's just it's just really interesting because if you asked yourself back then, if now would be the time, if this would be the group, you'd be like, no, I don't think so. They're going to see me and blah, blah.
Wouldn't have been ready at
Right.
that time.
Yeah. Exactly.
All the pieces fell right in perfect amount of time.
When they should have too.
Timing.
Yeah.
Yeah, timing is perfect.
Are there any specific opponents or anything in NXT that you specifically, in terms of like sort of micro stuff that you specifically want? Like, I'd like to do that in the near future.
War Games, which is probably the near future.
Yeah.
It's, something
It's pretty
big
near,
ahead of
yeah.
us. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Are you asking people we want to wrestle?
Yeah, or,
Yeah.
or situations you want to be in, but people you want to wrestle would certainly be.
I wouldn't mind hitting War Raiders with a chair again.
Yeah.
A lot.
Yeah.
A lot more. Like, I don't think.
an uncomfortable amount.
Yeah. Probably overdo that a little bit.
Yeah.
You're good at that.
Yeah, off the top of my head. Yeah.
That's a good goal.
Yeah, I don't want to brag.
Seems attainable.
I'd say Ricochet again, Velveteen Dream at some point, Tommaso Ciampa, Johnny Gargano.
I could not believe that match you had with Ricochet. That was you'd only wrestled him like a couple,
A handful of times
right
here.
and not super remarkably, right? Like,
Yeah, just we would do local Florida shows.
Right.
So we hadn't wrestled on television or on the road or anything like that.
and in the
before.
independents, like you hadn't really done.
Oh, on the Independence we wrestled one time.
right.
Before.
That's
yeah.
And then you were able to just go in there and have this mix of styles that was pretty incredible.
It was fun.
Yeah,
It was fun, man.
I expected exactly what he did, Sam, to be honest, because
Didn't
It's Adam
expect
Cole.
him to lose, though.
baby.
yeah.
Yeah.
Except the losing part.
Well, except that part.
Yeah. What about? Is there anybody that
Well,
you guys?
I'm like in a super like tag mode because we just tag.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously with tag.
And
team
you're the
champion,
tag
so
team
I'm like,
that helps.
I want to. Well, yeah, that does help, but I don't know. I want to face all the tag teams. I don't know.
Just beat all of them.
Yeah.
Just beat everybody.
I just want to wrestle everybody. It doesn't matter how experienced, how big I just want to see
yeah.
if we could bring the best out of them and give the people entertaining match.
Yeah. Give
Yeah, I
them a
wouldn't
show.
mind getting a little piece of just about everybody down there.
Yeah. You
Just
I agree.
guys are ready for it. Yeah. In the near future, we just like to wrestle and beat everybody.
Everybody.
I think it's
I mean,
possible.
that's it. Like, I mean, it's modest, really, Sam. Like, we just want to beat everyone.
Right. Right.
Like, give us a shot to beat everyone because we will.
Yeah.
Kyle, yeah.
Come on.
Come on.
What makes the Undisputed Era so special is the humility and the humble nature
Yeah.
that just radiates off of all
We
of you.
appreciate
We are
you noticing
so
that,
humble.
Sam.
Yeah, I really do.
Yeah.
Well, we got to do this again. I know you
Yeah,
guys.
I know
You
we
got a
do.
plane to catch to Orlando. We literally, I mean, I get a message because I've been talking to Mr. Roderick Strong about doing this for like, I think our first conversation many months ago.
Yes.
Trying to figure out when exactly we could get this down. And it's like, okay, we're doing an autograph signing in New York. We're getting there Friday night. We're leaving Saturday afternoon. When do you want to do it? And it's like, all right, whenever. We'll do it. And this is
Worked
the
out.
hour that we had. You guys got to go to the airport. I appreciate you guys making some time to do this.
Thank you
Oh,
for
we thank
having
you.
us.
This is a
Thank you,
special
Sam.
thing, I think.
Thank you, Sam.
And
Yeah.
we'll do it again, man. For
Please,
sure.
Sounds good.
Awesome.
Please.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Sam.
Thanks, Sam.
One of my favorite things to do each and every week here on Not Sam Wrestling is tell you guys about the wonders of SeatGeek. Yes, SeatGeek. If you haven't listened to me already, then please listen to me now. SeatGeek is one of our most loyal partners here on Not Sam Wrestling, and they provide a service that I know each and every one of you are going to want to get involved with. We all know how complicated it is to buy tickets for anything these days. Online, it's a nightmare. There's 100 different places to go. You never know if the tickets are authentic. You never know if you're getting the best deal. You never know anything until you show up to the building and you cross your fingers hoping for luck. Well, uncross your fingers. You don't need luck anymore. You don't need the stress anymore because SeatGeek has figured all of it out for you. I've got the app on my phone. I've tried it. You go through and they tell you all of the events that are happening in your area. They tell you if you look up a person, whether it's a musician, whether it's a team, whether it's whatever, they're going to tell you all of the events that group or person has scheduled. You can click on an event. They'll show you the seating chart. You'll see exactly what's available. And then you're going to be able to pick your ticket either based on where it is and or based on value, because they chart everything. Green, yellow, red. Is it the best value? Maybe, maybe not. If it's not the best value, is it super close up? If it is the best value, where is it? The reason they can determine best value is because they pull in data from everywhere. That way, you know that you're not missing any great deals. And it's all because of SeatGeek. SeatGeek does tickets to sporting events, wrestling shows, concerts, comedy, Broadway, anything you need. If you're buying tickets for anything, use SeatGeek. You're going to get the best seats at the best deals, and they're going to be guaranteed each and every time. If that's not enough for you, I will get you $20 off your first SeatGeek purchase. That's right. All you need to do is download the SeatGeek app and then enter promo code SAM today. That's promo code SAM, and you enter it today. SAM for $20 off your first SeatGeek purchase. You can't go wrong. SeatGeek, life's an event. We have the tickets.
Here is Sam Roberts.
Here he is, and thank you again to the Undisputed Era. I mean, such a fun conversation with those guys, and it really is a cool moment for all of them. If you watch NXT, and I would hope at this point that you do, they are such an example of how much potential that product has and how much it's rising to its potential. I mean, NXT is back to being my favorite wrestling show every week right now. NXT is just, it's so good. The lead-ups to the pay-per-views are so good. We're rounding out. We're about to have the last takeover in a couple of weeks of 2018. And right now, they've gone through the entire year without even close to a dud. Not only are they not even close to a dud, every show has been great. Every takeover of 2018 has been amazing. And the way War Games is looking, I don't see it going any other way. You know, I think you're introducing Gargano and Ciampa back to the main roster of NXT in the sense that for the better part of this year, everything Gargano and Ciampa did on NXT were about each other. And when they had those matches at TakeOver, it was about each other. Now, you've got them separated. You've got Gargano, heel turn, doing something completely different. You've got Ciampa and the Velveteen Dream, which is a combination, you know, that we haven't seen from this version of Ciampa, or really anything close to it. So I think that it's, and I think it's working. You know, you run the risk of, when something works so well as Gargano versus Ciampa, you run the risk of the next thing not being as good, but I don't know. I mean, I am so high on NXT right now and just think so highly of what's going on that show. And I go into everything optimistically, and it's not difficult. And I think most people do. I think most fans now, when they watch NXT, they're doing so optimistically. And the only way you get there is by putting out a consistently good product. If you put out a product that's consistently satisfying, people are going to expect a satisfying product when one's coming up. If you don't, people are going to assume that it might not be satisfying. So the fact that expectations are high for NXT consistently means that they're delivering on those expectations consistently, and I just love seeing it. You know, we should, I don't know if you guys heard the Major Brothers Figure podcast, but they responded to the bonus podcast that we did with Bill McKenna from Mattel. You know, Bill McKenna was here in the Notsam studio. We did the audio version, and we also did the YouTube version. He had Elite 65, Mattel's Elite 65 with him, and we got to preview those figures for the very first time. And we talked about Mattel. We talked about everything. We also talked about Dudegate and the controversy that was started by those damn Major Brothers. Look, I'll say a few things. First of all, something about that interview got under their skin. I don't know if they were jealous that the Dude Love story came from the Not Sam Wrestling podcast, and they never really got it from Bill himself on the Major Brothers podcast. But that's probably because I treat my friends like Bill McKenna nicely, and they do nothing but insult the guy. So maybe that's part of it. But as I was listening to it this week and how they responded to it, clearly upset that the conversation even happened here, right? Which is a little like, come on, guys, what are we doing? But the accusations being thrown around over there, first of all, this picture that they're painting, I don't even know what they're talking about, right? They're painting this picture that I've got these like display cases upon display cases upon display cases of broken figures with missing parts and paint rubbed off and all this stuff, which apparently big boy collectors don't do, right? That's for kids. Big boy collectors, the hypocrisy is wild. From 1 minute trying to chastise anybody and telling them to act like an adult and collect figures, action figures, the proper way, and the next minute to talk about the arena that you're building in your house for your figures. I have no idea, no clue how one acts as an adult. When you're collecting figures, what passes for adult and what passes for child. But beyond that, as far as the displays go, I don't have messed up figures on display in my house. That's ridiculous. You come down to the Not Sam studio, you can take a look. Hawkins has been here. He's never seen a messed up figure in the Not Sam studio. Where else would I be displaying them? The messed up figures are in boxes and stuff and put away. I will tell you, the fact that that damn podcast exists does have me pulling boxes out of my parents' house and finally organizing everything that I had as a kid. Because I have everything. I have all the Titantrons and the Ruthless Aggression and the R3 and the Maximum Sweat. I have the ones that talk when you turn their heads. Clearly, I have an amazing Mattel collection. I have the Hasbros. I have everything. All the WCW figures from official San Francisco toy makers to Toy Biz, Galoob. I've got the UK Galoobs from when I was living in the UK. And they're all, and so I am, they have motivated me to go back and go through all of them. But for dastardly Kurt Hawkins, he starts going like, talking about his big boy collection and bragging about his mint Hasbro collection. He doesn't even have a collection. He doesn't have the Hogan mail away. Okay, that's a partial collection. He doesn't have a full Hasbro collection. He's got a collection minus the Hogan mail away, which, by the way, is prominently displayed in a case in my house because it is display worthy because it is mint. But this idea that the other accusation that was thrown at me, so the Hasbros that I have on display here, I would show anybody in the world because they're gorgeous Hasbros on display. Is Ludwig Borga on display? No, he's only got 9 fingers. What can I do? I actually don't even know where that figure is. It's become the most famous figure in my Hasbro collection, and I don't know where it is. But I'll find it. I'm not ashamed of it. I'm not ashamed that my collection is comprised of figures that I bought when they came out. Every week you turn on the Major Wrestling Brothers figure podcast, and they start, talking about everything that they bought this week, and I'm like, yeah, I have it all. Everything. Oh, I got a Maximum Sweat Mankind this week. Yeah, I've had it the whole time. And mint. Perfect condition. You know why? Because I didn't go through. I'm not sitting there going like, well, this is junk, but this is essential. I'm not rebuying and buying and rebuying and selling and buying and selling my collections. My collection is my collection, and it's here. But the poser word that's being thrown around, this poser word that's being thrown around, the fact that the wrestling figures in my collection are the ones that I grew up with. All it does, and by the way, the damn podcast has gotten me to replace some of these Hasbros. Because they're right. I want more on display now. And the fact that I can't display the whole set because some of them are messed up from when I was a kid, now it's driving me crazy. And I'm going through and I'm seeing damage on these figures, and I am slowly but surely rebuying. So they're not wrong in the sense that you should have a nice Hasbro collection if you're a wrestling figure collector. But this poser word that's being thrown around is insanity. The fact that these figures are the figures that I've had from the beginning and still have today mean the exact opposite of poser. A poser is somebody who goes on eBay and starts buying up entire collections from 15 years ago, from 20 years ago, from 25 years ago, so they can put them on display and go like, yeah, these are the old figures. I just bought them, like just yesterday. That's a poser. A poser is somebody who acts like, you know, like a band, right? You like a band. If you hear a band's gotten cool and you just start liking that band and then act like you've been liking them the entire time, that's what makes you a poser. Me, I've got Ruthless Aggression series figures of the Edgeheads. I didn't buy them on eBay. I've had them in my collection the whole time. Who's got those? Real collectors. Like yours truly, the last professional broadcaster, Sam Roberts. So if you want to reopen, I'll tell you this. I heard about Wrestling Figure Court and that it's a thing. I'm telling you right now, the accusation that Sam Roberts, in terms of wrestling figure collecting, is a poser would never stand up in Wrestling Figure Court. I was buying on Ringside Collectibles before the Major Brothers had the internet. I've heard their podcast. Yeah, I was looking for Series 4, and I found them at the mall, and it was the first time I'd ever seen them. I had already seen them on Ringside Collectibles' website at that point. You know why? Because I'm not new to this. I'm true to this. I'm an OG collector, and I'm the real deal. And these poser accusations would simply, they'd be laughed out of any wrestling figure courtroom. So I've said my piece. I've got many gorgeous items. Right now, I'm looking across from me. I've got MOC Hasbros of Owen Hart, of 1-2-3 Kid. Anybody, Bill McKenna was down here from Mattel. Great guy, by the way. I love Bill. And he doesn't even sweat that much. He's a handsome, good, fun guy. But he was down here and he was talking about how great the whole collection was. He was impressed. And this is what he does. I have Japanese wrestling figures that the Major Brothers don't even know who the wrestlers are. You tell me I'm a poser collector when I can tell a certain Major Brother I have a mint Onita figure from Japan. And he says, I don't even know who that is. Okay, I'm a poser. If you put it in your courtroom, it wouldn't stand up, not even for a second. Plus, we shouldn't be judging each other's collections anyway. They really are starting, I mean, I like those guys. And they really are pushing me to just go through. I've got a whole station set up over here now. My wife hates it. I've got a whole station set up over here, and it's just bins and bins of figures that I'm taking from my parents' house. I'm giving them the fig bath that gets talked about on that damn podcast all the time. I'm putting them in bags. I'm sorting them by series. I'm inventorying the entire collection now. It's going to probably take a year to figure out everything that's there, and it's my own fault for allowing it to kind of go fall by the wayside for as long as I did. Especially because I went off to college and my mom just started packing wrestling figures up in boxes. So, and then they were disorganized. I just left them there. And now I'm finally getting to, because of this damn podcast, I have a giant box right now that's just full of bone crunching figures from Jack's. And I'm getting through them. Some of them are in great shape. Some of them are in bad shape. But I'm not displaying figures in bad shape. I don't even know where this stuff comes from. It's insanity. But there you go. That's what I think of that. There's a lot to talk about. There's a lot to think about. And we're going to think about all of it in the state of wrestling. We'll get back to the podcast in just a moment. But I wanted to talk to you about the fact that, we talk to a lot of pro athletes on this show, superstars as they were. And I wonder, how do I get superstar level confidence? As a man, I need superstar level confidence. It radiates across everything that I do. You can't do what I do and not be confident. It becomes very, very difficult. You want to know how to get confident? You want to get a whole lot cockier? Well, you can start with Ageless Male Max. It's a man-boosting formula with an ingredient to boost your total testosterone. Yes! You can now boost your total testosterone while also promoting greater increases in muscle size and twice the reduction in fat percentage than from exercise alone. Do you need more? Of course you do. How about this? A 64% boost in nitric oxide production, and that's going to help you get cocky in the gym and in the bedroom. You need to be cocky in this world. People are going to take you seriously. This should help. Take your manhood to the max by trying your first 30-day bottle absolutely for free. Just pay shipping and handling. That's a full 30-day supply for free when you text the word PRIME, PRIME, to 797979. Many testosterone formulas can only boost free testosterone, but Ageless Male Max is all about total testosterone. Grab your free supply. Text 797979 and enter PRIME, PRIME. If results are too intense, decrease use. Text 797979 and enter PRIME. Message and data rates may apply.
It's now time for this week's State of Wrestling.
Welcome to the State of Wrestling, everybody. This time every week we go over what is the state of wrestling, and by that I mean what the top 5 stories are in the world of professional wrestling according to yours truly, the last professional broadcaster, Sam Roberts, and what my take is on them. It's what we do here. Of course, the video version of this is available exclusively to all the Not Sam shills at patreon.com/NotSamWrestling. If you want to watch the state of wrestling every week, the only place you can do it is at patreon.com/NotSamWrestling. Let's get into it. Top 5 stories time, and I am pumped. I am pumped to talk about these. For the story number 5, and, I think crown jewel conversation will kind of run throughout the state of wrestling because the results of that show and the conversations about that show kind of have a lot to do with a lot of different stories trickling in throughout the week. But story number 5 we'll start with also has to do with the UFC. It has to do with the Universal Championship. The Undisputed Universal Championship. And it has to do with not only Brock Lesnar winning it, but Daniel Cormier calling him out at UFC 230 on Saturday. So, I think a lot of people were surprised. I don't think that everybody was shocked, but a lot of people were surprised that at Crown Jewel, Brock Lesnar won the Universal Championship. He beat Braun Strowman, and he walked out of the pay-per-view as the Universal Champion. Of course, the championship was vacated after Roman Reigns had to step away to fight leukemia. So Brock Lesnar winning is a bit of a shock because we had all thought that once Roman Reigns won that title, that the idea of that championship not being a mainstay on WWE TV was kind of done. I think the main reason why people thought Braun Strowman was going to win is, number one, the WWE seems to have given up on his heel turn, and number two, Roman Reigns is gone, and you would think that the commitment to making the Universal Championship part of WWE TV on a weekly basis was made as of SummerSlam, when Roman Reigns won. However, obviously that's not the case, and WWE's decided to go back to putting the title on Brock Lesnar, which means the Universal Championship is only going to be seen on Raw in a limited capacity and won't be defended on Raw at all. So this goes back to the argument that we always have when it comes to this title, and that is that Brock or the championship should be defended on television. The championship should at least be defended at every pay-per-view, and that's not the case when it's Brock Lesnar. At the end of the day, I think, and I've made this argument before, I don't think I've used this language before, the Universal Championship is cursed. At this point, the Universal Championship is not built for active use anymore, right? I mean, in WWE, when we think about champions, when we think about people that have exemplified the word champion, that have defined that title, we think about good guys. We think about top guys. We think about Hulk Hogan, John Cena, Stone Cold Steve Austin. Even The Rock as a champion really stood out when he was a good guy. It's a babyface territory, as has been said. But the people who define the title are generally good guys. Look at the Macho Man Randy Savage. Heel for a huge portion of his career. But 2 big title runs, and one of them, he was a good guy for most of it until it was time to drop to Hogan. And the other one, he was a good guy throughout. And that was, of course, WrestleMania 8 when he beat Ric Flair. So I think that those are the title runs that create the legacy of what the championship is. Now, we look at the Universal Championship, and the reason why that title hasn't really been defined much on TV, and the reason why I say it's cursed, is because no good guy can hold on to that title. And when I say good guy, I mean no active, every week competing, non-part-time good guy can hold that title. There's 2 good guys that have been the champion. Look at the run of this title. We were going to debut it with Finn Balor. Not only did Finn Balor he got 1 match, and that was the match for the Universal Championship. Finn Balor, when he first came on the main roster, I mean, my God, he came on the main roster, first night in, he beat Roman Reigns clean. They keep him away. He goes on to SummerSlam. He beats Seth Rollins. He becomes the Universal Champion. 24 hours later, it turned out he was injured in that match. He has to put down the title. And he has never come close to being back to where he was in that moment. So Finn Balor's Universal title run, the fact that he was the first champion, I love Finn Balor. I'm the biggest fan in the world. It's trivia that he was Universal Champion because it was just for a day. Then we move on to Kevin Owens, who had a long run with the title, but it was a bad guy title run. It was a matter of keep away, right? When a bad guy in WWE is champion, more often than not, you're playing keep away with the title. And it's about what we're trying to convince the audience to do is pay for tickets to see somebody try to take the title from Kevin Owens, not to see the champion. Does that make sense? Kevin Owens loses it to Goldberg. Goldberg beats Brock Lesnar. Kevin Owens loses the title to Goldberg. Goldberg is a good guy champion, but he only wrestles 2 matches, over the course of however many months. 2 matches. That's not a real, the title is now off of TV. And then Brock Lesnar ends up beating Goldberg to get that Universal title. Brock Lesnar holds on to the Universal title forever. Finally, he drops it to Roman Reigns, who then has to walk away after only 2 months, maybe, of holding it. And now it's back on Brock Lesnar. We have not had a considerable run with any top good guy as champion holding that title. That title has not been given the opportunity to have a good guy hold it every week on TV. So the idea that Brock Lesnar is champion again, it doesn't really bother me because it's almost like the title hasn't really debuted yet. It's almost like the title hasn't built its foundation yet. It's still a new title, and it's been around for 3 years because of that factor. And because a foundation for it hasn't been built, I'm okay in the meantime with Brock Lesnar holding the title. And I'm even more okay with it for one idea that's in my head, right? Daniel Cormier won his fight at UFC 230 over the weekend. He successfully defended the UFC Heavyweight Championship. And when he won, Joe Rogan went into the cage to interview him. And when he was interviewed, he called out Brock Lesnar and he said, "Bring your WWE Championship with you when you come here to fight me because I want to win that too." Now, there's a couple of keys here. Number one, Cormier didn't insult WWE, didn't insult the title. He treated the title like a real title and not a prop. He didn't say anything about fake wrestling. He didn't do any of that stuff that other fighters might do. Cormier is either late 30s or maybe very early 40s. I don't know his exact age, but it could be very early 40s. He might have another year left of fighting, I would imagine. There's not that many big fights, because he probably won't have the John Jones fight because John Jones at 205 is not going to go up in weight, probably, to compete with Daniel Cormier. And if you watch the interviews that they're doing now, they're not talking about each other because they want to get the attention away from that because that fight's probably not going to happen. If the John Jones fight doesn't happen, there's not a ton left for Cormier after Brock Lesnar. The UFC heavyweight division is not as deep as it once was. So I personally believe that the reason Cormier reacted the way he reacted was because he wants to go to WWE. I think that UFC's Daniel Cormier was almost in that moment pitching himself for WWE, saying like, hey, I'm taking this seriously, and kind of familiarizing himself with or allowing the WWE audience to familiarize themselves with him if they aren't already. He's a big WWE fan. There's already rumors on the internet about him maybe doing some commentary when SmackDown comes to Fox. I would not be at all surprised within 2 years, maybe within a single year, but by 2020, if you see Daniel Cormier in a WWE ring on a fairly regular basis. I'm not talking about one match. I'm talking about becoming a WWE superstar. Now, one thing that I really want to see, so the Daniel Cormier-Brock Lesnar fight will probably happen in the February-March time. That's when MMA fans, I think, believe that will probably happen. So it would entail Brock Lesnar holding the Universal title through Royal Rumble. He's got a match with AJ Styles at Survivor Series. The title is not on the line. Theoretically, he's not going to defend it at TLC. If he defends it before WrestleMania, it'll be at Royal Rumble. So he would have to successfully defend it there, then walk into the octagon with the Universal title. Now, it would be super cool to see Brock Lesnar walk into the octagon with the Universal title. My gut tells me that he may not do it for free, but I think it would be worth the publicity that WWE would get from that. However, what would be really cool is if Brock Lesnar, and this is a big if, because Daniel Cormier is going to be extremely difficult for Brock Lesnar to beat. If I were a betting man, I may put my money on Cormier. However, Brock Lesnar is a freak. If Brock Lesnar can beat Daniel Cormier, and if Brock Lesnar can win that UFC championship, the real visual that's going to count is Brock Lesnar walking into WrestleMania with the Universal title and the UFC title. I think Brock Lesnar walking into WrestleMania with a UFC championship would be an even bigger deal than Brock Lesnar walking into UFC with a WWE championship. And that's because all the UFC's eyes would be on their champion being at WrestleMania anyway, and it would add even more authenticity to the Brock Lesnar character. And if WrestleMania is the moment that you can finally have Braun Strowman beat Brock Lesnar, and he does it while Brock Lesnar is using that UFC championship or holding it, I think that you've set up Braun Strowman in a big, big way. Now, I don't remember if we talked about it on this podcast or on the Q&A that I did for Patreon this week, but Braun Strowman, the one setback he has, clearly he's meant to be a good guy because the fans love him. He needs to get back to being a good guy. I think that the weirdness of somehow becoming a bad guy after SummerSlam and then real quick going back to good guy so he could fight Brock Lesnar has left people not quite as enthusiastic for him as they once were. I think that can all come back, though, because he's really, really great. I think that Braun Strowman losing to Brock at Crown Jewel had everything to do not only with making Brock a credible threat once again, but also, and possibly getting him to carry that title into the UFC, but also it was about building some sympathy for Braun Strowman, which is really, really difficult to do, given how dominant he's been booked and how big he is. So it'll be interesting to see what happens with that, but that's what I think of the Universal title and Daniel Cormier. For story number 4, we go back to Crown Jewel and we talk about two things. Number 1, the best wrestler in the world, Shane McMahon. I don't know what anybody's problem with that is. Clearly, he's the best wrestler in the world. But number 2, I'm kidding. The issue with the Shane McMahon thing is that the WWE convinced us to take the World Cup seriously. The WWE promoted the best in the world World Cup trophy as if it was a real prize for like 3 or 4 weeks. So we were all in hook, line, and sinker. And we looked at this lineup, and it was all the stars of WWE, and it was a big deal. And it was, the one criticism was for a World Cup, you had a lot of Americans in there. But regardless of that, we were made to feel like this was a big deal. And Crown Jewel is being promoted as this big show throughout the night. You're talking about an eight-man tournament that takes place over the course of one night, which means that not only do we have 3 to 4 weeks of build-up for this thing, talking about it, but the whole show has been a build-up for the final match. And so to do a blow-off in the final match where Shane McMahon just kind of sneaks in and beats Dolph Ziggler, it's like we were all ready to see The Miz or Dolph become, be taken to the next level by being the ones who are holding this trophy. And I wouldn't have been able to call it between the two of them. You could make an argument. I think that on SmackDown, The Miz would be taken to the next level. On Raw, Dolph Ziggler would be taken to the next level. Now, I understand why it was done, and I don't have a problem with why it was done. Like, I found myself wanting to see a Baron Corbin versus Shane McMahon match at Survivor Series. I get you got Team Raw versus Team SmackDown, and it seems like that really Shane McMahon coming in and sneaking around and getting that best in the World Cup was really something that was meant to create a divide in the brands between Raw and SmackDown. Because I don't care. I don't have an issue with Survivor Series being Raw versus SmackDown. I don't have an issue with Team Red versus Team Blue. Like, I like it. I kind of enjoy it. And I think that the Shane McMahon thing actually does add a layer of competitiveness that is needed for that match to make sense. But I just wish it hadn't been done at the expense of all the build for that tournament. I don't know that the ends justified the means. I think that it's fruitful. It's not for nothing. Like, it's not just a blow-off. That was done to create a rivalry between Raw and SmackDown. That was done because now Dolph Ziggler is pissed at SmackDown. Baron Corbin is pissed at Shane. The whole thing was The Miz in on it. Like, this whole thing where SmackDown was able to put a fresh man in, being Shane McMahon, and steal the trophy, which Raw really wanted it, and clearly Shane had said he was going to fire whoever didn't get it, if somebody from SmackDown didn't get it. So I think that they are actually doing a good job of building brand loyalty and building up this pride in the brands. And I think they did a good job last year, too, when they had, SmackDown come in and invade Raw and do the whole thing. I don't have a problem with this stuff. And I don't even think it's like, whoa, we don't hear about it the rest of the year. Why all of a sudden? Well, we're busy the rest of the year. Right now, this is when we're talking about it. And I've never had an issue with it. And, I think you can just say there's a competitiveness between the two shows, because there is, and now we're exploiting it. That's fine by me. I just think that, number one, you're now calling Shane the best wrestler in the world, and number two, we built it for a couple weeks. So that's what I thought about that. And as far as Shawn's return, I had fun with the main event of Crown Jewel. I thought it was fun seeing all those guys in the ring. I don't know exactly what people expected. I don't think it was a must-see thing, and I don't think it's going to go on the highlight reel of any of those four guys. But I think they gave it their all, and I think going in there for the amount of time that they went in there for is a major accomplishment. I think the match was a major accomplishment. I loved watching it. And a lot of it was nostalgia. It wasn't like, oh my God, this is a 10-star match. It was like, oh my God, I get to see these guys again. I was disappointed when I watched the post-show interview and Shawn Michaels said he was not going to come back to the ring again. He was like, it reminded me why I've been gone for 8 years and why I won't be coming back if there's anything I can do about it. And I was like, oh. So that whole conversation that we had last week about this is a big deal and should lead somewhere isn't going to happen. So that's a little bit of a bummer, because I think that now Shawn had this perfect thing and there's an asterisk on it. There's a little mark on it that goes like, well, technically he had one more match, but it was at Crown Jewel, so who counts that? So that's kind of for the OCD person in me, that's tough, because you go like, okay, you had this perfect run, and now just at the very end, it's like, oh yeah, and then there's one more thing, and you're like, well, I don't want to count that. Can we not count that? So I think that the fact that Shawn says he's not wrestling again is going to make it so this match does kind of go down as a you can't count that match when you're talking about Shawn's career. But I thought, just as a fan watching the match, I wasn't offended by that match. I thought it was fun. I had a good time. Let's move on to story number 3, because that also has crown jewel implications, and that's all about Kurt Angle. So I was surprised that Kurt Angle lost to Dolph Ziggler in the first round. I was glad that if Kurt Angle is going to lose to Dolph Ziggler in the first round, that Dolph Ziggler does go to the finals, because at least it adds some credibility to that loss. But I started looking at Kurt Angle differently. You know, I wasn't upset about it. Believe it or not, Sam likes WWE. I wasn't upset about the ending of Raw. You know, I think that more often we should be trying to use the legends like Kurt Angle to push forward the current guys. And I think that that's what we saw on Monday night with Drew McIntyre. This sort of realization that he's a force to be reckoned with. And that's why Kurt Angle went out the way he went out. Look, maybe they're looking at Kurt and saying, you know, we used the sort of cachet of Kurt Angle and his legacy to help get Ronda Rousey over. But Kurt Angle is not going to do any more big matches. Maybe Kurt Angle is not there to do any more big matches. And if Kurt Angle's not going to do any more big matches, then why not use him to get Dolph Ziggler and Drew McIntyre over? Why not use him to make Drew McIntyre look ruthless? You know, why should he look dominant at this point in his career? He's done. I interviewed him at Ringside Fest, and it's on Ringside Collectibles' YouTube channel, and he says the reason why he never had a problem being an entertainer and doing the goofy stuff that he did at the beginning of his WWE career was because he knew that his legacy spoke for itself. He knew that he had the Olympic gold medal. He knew that there was nothing he could do on TV to take away from what he's already done. And, you know, I think that that's true about Kurt Angle. You know, I think that there is nothing at this point that Kurt Angle can do to take him out of the conversation as one of the best of all time. So I'm okay with Drew McIntyre being put over the way he was put over, but I would love, email me or tweet me or whatever, and I would love to have a bigger conversation about what the issue was with the way Drew McIntyre beat Kurt Angle on Raw, because I had no problem with it whatsoever. Another thing I don't have a problem with is story number 2, and that's the build to Becky Lynch versus Ronda Rousey. It's just, you know, you didn't think Becky could get any better than when she was revving up for her match against Charlotte, and she does. She's amazing, this Becky Lynch. And she's bringing out the best in the people around her. Ronda, too. Ronda is improved. Like, we all were, I think, blown away by how well she did with Nikki Bella in terms of the storytelling, the promos, the this, the that. Ronda was amazing on Raw with that Becky Lynch promo. Ronda is getting involved in social media. My prediction is we walk into Survivor Series, and the Ronda versus Becky match is going to be the most personal match on the show, and the one that we are most excited about. And that says a lot. Becky was able to pull that off at Evolution. At Evolution, I think that even though the Ronda Rousey versus Nikki Bella match was the mainstream favorite, I really think that Becky Lynch versus Charlotte was the one that most fans were looking forward to the most. It's the one that stole the show. It's the one that had the best story going in. Now, that's an all-female pay-per-view. Becky Lynch and Charlotte are at the top of that roster, inarguably. You're now looking at a scenario where, because Ronda Rousey is who she is, and because Becky Lynch has elevated herself as high as she has, I think you're looking at a scenario where Becky Lynch and Ronda Rousey may be able to repeat that interest, but do it at a pay-per-view where the entire main roster is being represented. I think it's great. I think it's so cool to watch. And I think people had these conversations, Ronda Rousey, Charlotte, Asuka, this person, that person. Not very many people talked about Becky Lynch as the person that was going to take women to the next level. And she's doing it. And it's amazing, amazing to see. Let's move on to story number 1. And I know I'm rushing through these stories, but that's because we're going to spend some time on story number 1, okay? I'll promise you that. So, this week, and I love that you guys, every time WWE puts out a top 5 list now, I get messages saying, please talk about this on the podcast. We did it with the betrayals. We did it with I think it was the best factions. We did, WWE put out top 5 greatest factions. I tore that to shreds and did my own. Top 5 greatest betrayals. Tore that to shreds, did my own. This time, WWE on their Instagram account put out the 5 greatest Survivor Series tag teams ever. And I'll tell you who they are right now. Number 5, this is WWE's list, is the Hulkamaniacs from 1989. Great team. Demolition, Jake the Snake Roberts, and Hulk Hogan. Awesome. Team number 4, Team SmackDown from 2005. That's Bobby Lashley, Randy Orton, Rey Mysterio, Batista, JBL. Major star power. I mean, the guys on that, out of all of them, other than JBL, they can all still go, and 3 of them are on the active roster right now. And this is from 2005. I mean, that's pretty amazing. Team number 3, the Ultimate Warriors, which is the Ultimate Warrior, obviously, Texas Tornado, and the Legion of Doom, Hawk and Animal. That's an amazing team as well. That is, that is the 90s, whereas the Hulkamaniacs with Demolition and Jake Roberts and Hulk Hogan, that is 1989 good guys to a T. The Ultimate Warriors, where it's LOD, Ultimate Warrior, and Texas Tornado, that is 1990 good guys to a T. That is when they're trying to distance themselves from Hulk Hogan a little bit and really show this is what we've got. Number 2, we move way into the future from last year, 2017, Team Raw. Finn Balor, Triple H, Braun Strowman, Kurt Angle, Samoa Joe. Awesome team. The names on that team, my God, awesome team. And the number 1 greatest Survivor Series team of all time is Team WWE from 2001, which is Kane, Undertaker, Big Show, Rock, Jericho. Hard to argue with that one. That list is actually not bad. That list is less egregious than either of the 2 lists that came before it. But that didn't stop me from making my own list. I decided to re-rank and redo the top 5 Survivor Series teams of all time. I swear to you, I went on today. I went through all Survivor Series teams ever. All of them. Year by year, there's been 100, almost 160 or something like that. 155 maybe. And I went through all of them, and I came up with my own top 5. Let me know what you think about this, because this is where I stand on it, okay? Team number 5. Team number 5 is not on WWE's list at all. And I put team number 5 on my list, and this is the only one where we kind of have to explain it. It's not because the team is so great, but it's because of how important this moment is. That if this team hadn't existed, we wouldn't have gotten this moment, and it would have changed the legacy of who is, to me, maybe the greatest WWE superstar of all time. We go through the list. My favorite wrestler is either Stone Cold or Macho Man. The best wrestler is probably Shawn Michaels. The greatest WWE superstar of all time, that's another list that we're going to have to make at some point, is probably the man who debuted on this team in 1990. He was a part of the $1 Million Team. It was Ted DiBiase, Greg the Hammer Valentine, Honky Tonk Man, that's Rhythm and Blues, and The Undertaker. The Undertaker's debut is one of the most important things to ever happen in WWE. I don't think that it is at all fair to talk about the greatest Survivor Series teams of all time without mentioning the team that The Undertaker debuted on. And for that reason, the $1 Million Team from 1990 Survivor Series is my number 5 greatest team ever, simply because of the debut of The Undertaker. And I will fight that point, and we can argue it all you want, but I 100% stand by it. Number 4, this is a team that was also not on WWE's list. Number 4 is from 1994. And 1994 is, it's a bit of a weird year. 93, 94, 95, not the WWE's finest hour. But if you look at the team that is in 1994, this is one of, if not the best bad guy team ever assembled, in my personal opinion. And that's not just because they're monster heels. It's just, there are very few teams that have this much talent on it and this many people that will become big forces in wrestling, arguably forever. The Teamsters, is my number 4 team. 1994's Survivor Series team called the Teamsters is my number 4 team. The Teamsters are consisting of Jim the Anvil Neidhart, Owen Hart, Big Daddy Cool Diesel, Jeff Jarrett, and Shawn Michaels. So you've got the Anvil, you've got Owen, you've got Jeff Jarrett, Double J, you've got HBK, and you've got Diesel. 5 of the best heels of all time. Certainly those 4 you cannot argue are 4 of the best superstars of all time. I'm talking about Owen, Shawn, Diesel, and Jeff Jarrett. Not to put the Anvil out, but those are anybody who's making a top whatever list of superstars. Those are 4 of the greats. And as I'm looking through teams, I'm like, I don't know why more people aren't talking about this team. This wasn't even a main event match. These guys wrestled like either first or second or something like that. But these are the people, think about it. Jeff Jarrett is just going to go on to skyrocket. Owen Hart, God rest his soul, is going to be remembered as one of the greatest of all time. This is Survivor Series 94. By WrestleMania, it's going to be Shawn and Diesel in the main event. This is 2 or 3 days. 2 or 3 days after this show, we would go to Madison Square Garden where Diesel would beat Bob Backlund in 8 seconds and become the WWE champion, okay? 3 days after this show is when the WWE officially started running on Diesel power. And let me tell you something. I had the gloves. I had the sunglasses. I had all the shirts. I was a Big Daddy Cool fan. Big Daddy Cool, of course, would lead to the rise of Shawn Michaels. Diesel would go on to be in the NWO. The whole thing. Anvil, Owen, Diesel, Shawn, Jeff Jarrett, the Teamsters from 1994. The number 3 team that is on my list also, and this one was kind of surprising, also does not appear on WWE's top 5 list, but I had to go through every team to make sure. But this team has always stuck out to me as one of the coolest teams ever. This time, we went from 90 to 94. Now we're going all the way to 2006. And it's Team DX from Survivor Series 2006. That's Matt and Jeff Hardy, DX, Shawn Michaels and Triple H, and CM Punk. It's tough to think of a better squad of good guys, especially in the 2000s, than that group. Triple H, Shawn Michaels, Matt Hardy, Jeff Hardy, CM Punk. CM Punk is on the rise. The Hardy Boys are, Jeff Hardy's at his peak. You could argue Matt Hardy might be too. Triple H and Shawn are not over the hill, but it's that second incarnation of DX, with the Spirit Squad stuff and the Rooster t-shirt and everything and the glow sticks. And I just, I think that team is one of the best teams assembled as far as good guys go. That is a legendary team. Now, some of the teams that are not on my list, we've only got 2 teams left, but some of the teams that definitely ranked and were in my head conversation for possible best teams. Team Guerrero from 2004, which is John Cena, Big Show, Rob Van Dam, and Eddie Guerrero. What an amazing team. Team WWE from 2001. WWE ranked that as their number 1. It was on my list. It didn't make my top 5. The Warriors was also on my list. Didn't make my top 5. Team Triple H from 2007. Triple H, Rey Mysterio, Kane, Jeff Hardy. Team Batista from 2008. Batista, Punk, R-Truth, Kofi Kingston, Matt Hardy. You've got a huge mix there of past and present coming together. Those are some of the teams that did not make my list, but were certainly in contention for it. Team number 2. Number 2 on my list is Team Raw from 2016. So WWE's number 2 greatest Survivor Series team of all time was Team Raw 2017. That's Finn Balor, Triple H, Braun Strowman, Samoa Joe, and Kurt Angle. I picked 2016 because 2016 is one of the best collections of current talent that's on a roster ever. This really lets you know how high the bar was for Monday Night Raw in 2016. When you look at 2017, that team's amazing. That team is legendary. But you have Triple H added to it, who is, the authority figure, but not an active participant on the roster, and you have Kurt Angle, who's like making his return. He had made his return, I think, a month before that, to return with the Shield, but this was his big return. So really, it was Finn Balor, Braun Strowman, and Samoa Joe from Raw that were the active people, and that part of that is because the title holders by then were doing the champion versus champion thing, which they weren't doing in 2016. So 2016 had that advantage. But listen to this team from Team Raw 2016, and I think people forget about how amazing this team is. The Universal Champion at the time, Kevin Owens. Chris Jericho. Braun Strowman. Seth Rollins. And Roman Reigns. I can't think of a team comprised of more current main event people ever than that team. Kevin Owens, Chris Jericho, Seth Rollins, Roman Reigns, and Braun Strowman. I mean, that is, if that doesn't tell you the type of talent that Raw had in 2016, I don't know what does. And by the way, save for Jericho, those guys are all still on the main roster. Obviously Roman Reigns is going through what Roman Reigns is going through, but you know what I'm saying. So that is my number 2 team. My number 1 team was WWE's number 5 team. My number 1 team is from 1989, and that's the Hulkamaniacs. Hulk Hogan, Jake the Snake Roberts, and Demolition. Look, that team to me defined the late 80s. You go, every piece of WWE merchandise you look at from that era was either Demolition, Jake the Snake, or Hulk Hogan. Everywhere you look, they were there. It was an amazing time, and there aren't many people that could argue the impact that those guys were making. I mean, it was incredible. Incredible. And I just think 1989 is such an important time for WWE. And like the team from 2016, that was the most main event talent. The team from 1989, Jake, Hogan, Demolition, that's all good guys, right? Those are the top good guys at the time. Jake eventually would become a bad guy. Demolition would shortly after this become bad guys again. But these are all good guys in this moment. Fans are going nuts for them. That to me, the Hulkamaniacs from 1989 is the number 1 Survivor Series team of all time. So my list, number 5 is the $1 Million Team from 1990, Rhythm and Blues, Ted DiBiase, Undertaker. Number 4 is the Teamsters from 1994, Jim Neidhart, Owen Hart, Diesel, Shawn Michaels, and Jeff Jarrett. Oh, I love that team. Number 3, 2006, I love this one too, is Team DX. Matt Hardy, Jeff Hardy, Shawn Michaels, Triple H, and CM Punk. My God. Number 2 is Team Raw from 2016. Kevin Owens, Chris Jericho, Seth Rollins, Roman Reigns, and Braun Strowman. And number 1 is the Hulkamaniacs, Hulk Hogan, Jake the Snake Roberts, Axe, and Smash of Demolition. Man, these are great teams. Those are 5 fabulous teams. I don't know how you can argue them. If you can, hit me up on Twitter and everything, and we'll have the conversation. Thank you for once again being a part of Not Sam Wrestling this week. Don't forget, if you want to watch this whole thing on video, you can at patreon.com/NotSamWrestling, and we will see you right here next week. Goodbye, everybody.
Hey, this is Colt Cabana. I've been wrestling on the independent wrestling scene for the past 20 years. From the gathering of the Juggalos to the border towns in Mexico. My podcast is The Art of Wrestling, and each week I document my adventures.
We're in Winchao, which is about an hour outside of Shanghai by flight.
So Sumo Hall, the whole bottom is like where they watch sumo wrestling. The ring is in the middle, so there's chairs there, and then there's a whole top tier too, right? Yeah.
I'm coming up on 18 years of independent professional wrestling and nothing but. And to see it get to this level, I've gotten goosebumps like 3 times during this show.
As a guy who had a snake his whole career, do you feel akin to like the animals here and stuff?
Just a freak show part of it.
There you go.
Yeah.
We're on a boat in the middle of nowhere, and this thing came flapping in, and it was like in slow motion. It just crashed. It crashed into the front row.
Hear a new documentary every week about the weird world of pro wrestling, The Art of Wrestling, wherever you get your podcasts or ColtCabana.com.
Thanks for listening. Follow at Not Sam on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube.
Rate, review, and subscribe. This has been Not Sam Wrestling.
Still sticking around, huh? I knew you would. It's time to bring the men of this country back to greatness with Ageless Male Max. Their patent-pending formula helps boost your total testosterone, promoting greater increases in muscle size and twice the reduction in body fat percentage than exercise alone, plus an amazing 64% increase in nitric oxide. Try your first 30-day bottle for free. Just pay shipping and handling when you text the word PRIME, PRIME, to 797979. For your free bottle, text PRIME to 797979. Message and data rates may apply.